Hey folks, so this is Shetz, and last week we had the one problem of finding the midpoint of BD, and when I plot these other two points B and D, I've noticed that the slope of the left and right side, it's down 4 and over 1, so that's a negative 1/4, and for the top and bottom, I'm going down 1 and over 5, so that's a negative 1/5. I know that both of these, down 1 and over 5, they're parallel. So this definitely is a parallelogram by the definition. We were asked to find the midpoint of AC, which is the work right here is what I did. Let me scroll down a little bit more. So this is the work that I did from the other video. And now we have to find the midpoint of BD. So I'm going to take the 7 and the 1, that's the orange, and I'm also going to take the 0 and the 5 and add them together and then divide by 2. And notice we get the same answer as we did for the midpoint of AC in this problem. So obviously the midpoint's going to be the same because we know that the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. All right, so last time we met, you learned all these properties, and I need you to go back and look at these for the square, the rhombus. You want to look at these markings that I've already marked on your paper from the last time we met. And here was a nice picture, so you can picture this in your mind for some of those people that are visual. Again, this square has every property on this page. And this rectangle has these plus this one only. Rhombuses have these properties of the parallelogram and these two new ones. So remember to memorize those. I'm going to help you out with today's homework. Today's homework will be page 24. Now, you can do these first 4 problems up here. Be careful of this one that you don't get too specific. I hope you don't put down a square for this because we don't know that these are right angles. So just be careful in problem 2 that you don't get too specific. What quadrilaterals have the property that's listed? Well, I'll do number 5 with you. Opposite angles are supplementary. Well, wait a second. We know that opposite angles are congruent right here. And if opposite angles are supplementary, then they're going to equal 180. Well, if we have 2 opposite angles and we divide by 2, 180 divided by 2 is 90. So what number 5 is saying, which figures have opposite angles that are 90? And we know that happens in a rectangle and a square. You can answer the rest of these problems. We go down to this one here, and this directions each rhombus. Now, we had an old theorem that says the acute angles of a right triangle are complementary. That would mean, and I'll quickly draw you something, if there's my right triangle and that's that, then that means that, and I'll use a highlighter, that means that this angle up here and this angle have to be 90. You already have 90, so these two have to be 90. Therefore, in this triangle here, if this is 35, you know that this angle is the complement. This angle is the complement of 35. And if we're talking about a rhombus, you know that these two angles are equal. So if I go back to this page, and I need you to look back, these two angles are congruent, these two angles are congruent. So let's go to our problem. If this is 35, you certainly know what that is. And if I look at this theorem here, if this is 35, then this blue angle is the complement. And we also know that these two angles are equal. So you guys can figure that out for problem 9. We go down here and look at this. This is 30 degrees. Well, wait, this is a rectangle, and you know that this big angle is a box right here. And if that's 30, then you certainly know what 1 is. Okay, think about it. And if this is 30, then you certainly know what 4 is. Go back to this page here and look. If this is an isosceles triangle right here, then we know that base angles are going to be congruent. So these two have to be the same. And in our problem, if this angle is 30, then this angle is also 30. So I gave you just one itsy-bitsy little information, like this is 30. You can tell me the rest of every angle, even including, not that it's asking, but you could also tell me, whoops, what that angle is. You can tell me what this angle is, because that's 30. You know that angle 4 is 30. So do the rest of these problems. And we get down to the very bottom here. And we have a rectangle, TUVW. TUVW. Okay. And they're asked to find the value of x and the length of each diagonal, which means we're probably going to have to plug it in. Well, if this diagonal is 3x and this one is 5x minus 10, we know they're equal to each other. Why? Because that's a property of rectangles. The diagonals are congruent. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides, and oops, guess what? We're going to get, let me line it up, make sure it's pretty. And when we line it up, we're going to get 0 equals 2x minus 10. 5x minus 3x is 2x. I'm going to add the 10 to the other side. I'm going to divide by 2. And guess what? X is going to equal a 5. So we did find, let me move this guy over. So we did find the value of x right there is 5. And when we plug it in, each diagonal, now I'm going to take this 5. Let me get a color here. I'm going to take this 5 and plug it right in there, because this TV was 3x. That TV was 3x. I'm going to plug the 5 back in. 3 times 5 is 15. And guess what about the other diagonal? Since diagonals are congruent in a rectangle, the other diagonal has to be 15. So there you go, folks. I'd like you to do number 14. And this whole page is for homework. I've helped you out. And if you need some help, usually I'm between 2 and 3 on Class Kick. But you could also email me and we can come up with a special time. There you go, folks. This page 24 is for homework. Take care. Thanks a lot.